For us, as regulators, we have as a main mission actually to protect the stability of the financial sector. But that is not good enough. If the financial sector is stable, and you can have some sources of instability outside of the financial sector, because whenever you don't have a market well developed, you will find parallel markets. And sometimes parallel markets might be a threat for the formal financial sector. And the other thing is that, of course, you have a more legitimate formal sector if you have more participation of the population. The problem a regulator faces when it comes to the base of a pyramid is not to overload financial service providers. They need to provide services at affordable prices, so they are always looking for ways to lower down the cost. So we don't want to charge additional cost. But at the same time, we understand that when it comes to the base of the pyramid, actually we are facing a higher risk of consumers being abused by financial institutions. These people are more vulnerable because they are not used to use financial services, or in some cases they don't even have, some of them, they think they do not have the right to claim for, or to claim for a good service. So sometimes financial education also serves the function of empowering consumers. We think right now that things are under control. There is no over-indebtedness in the market. However, we are aware that the risk is there. No, basically, not only because of the rate of growth of loans, but also because there was some deterioration in certain point of the time of the credit portfolio. However, if you analyze carefully all the information, you can see that the rate of growth is not coming only for adding additional loans to the people who already have a loan. We have a lot of unsatisfied demand. As long as the new loans are going towards incorporating these new people, I think there is no reason for concern. But at the same time, the regulator is taking a lot of actions in terms of basically trying to make sure that financial institutions are using best practices. They are using good practices in the process of lending, at the origination of the loan, and also while monitoring the loan. For instance, at the moment of origination, consumer or financial providers have to look at the information of the credit bureaus in order to see what is the position of the potential borrower first. And they have to use this information along the duration of the loan in order to see if this borrower is getting additional loans. On the other side, we are trying also to make sure that financial providers are making efforts to, or they have very precise models in order to predict what is the ability of the borrower to repay the loan. Of course, for us as regulators, we cannot see what is the level of income, because when you are talking about over-indebtedness, you have to compare the level of income versus the loan to see if it makes sense or not. But we are in the position to require the financial sector providers that they should be looking at that, trying to make estimations of the level of incomes of the borrowers and their ability to repay the loan. I think trying to push the financial services providers to be very careful at the moment of originating the loan, using good practices, is going to be an effective way to prevent the occurrence of over-indebtedness. The problem we faced was that we had actually an unregulated market. And having an unregulated market poses for us many risks. First of all, the possibility that non-serial investors could enter the market and offer the services and disappear the day after. And the other thing is that it was also preventing the investment of good investors. Because in the case of Latin America, as we see, we think that investors like to have clear rules in order to risk their money. That might be different from some other countries in other places, but that is the idiosyncrasy in the case of investors in Latin America. And since we needed to regulate this market, we kind of had to see what were the needs in terms of the population, and to look at that, the fact that we have a lot of improvement in financial inclusion, but basically in urban areas and not in rural areas. And the financial institutions right now that are working in the market were very good at making progress in urban areas mostly. So we needed some other type of factors with different economics, perhaps looking at more massive approaches. In this case, we thought that allowing specialized operators such as MNOs who might be willing to create a subsidiary will be a better bet in our case, so that they can offer financial services at urban and rural areas, basically with a different approach, thinking on being on have a very high impact, because they have the infrastructure already. There is a very high penetration of mobiles in the country. So actually that was a situation, they were in a better position to offer the service even in those areas where the formal financial service had not arrived yet. We put a lot of effort in this, in the regulation for mobile financial services, not only for e-money. We think the great opportunity is there, because Peru has a very high penetration of mobiles nationwide, not only in urban areas, also in rural areas. Whereas the development, as I explained before, of financial inclusion, formal financial inclusion, was basically seen in urban areas. So we put the hopes in really the mobiles to be as an effective instrument that can be used to further financial inclusion.